Hi, my name is Nicole Buhner, and this is my unit. It's a fourth grade unit on animation. So to introduce the unit, the students will be creating an animation using a program called PiscalApp.com. It's a website that is free to use. The students can log in with their Google account if they have one through the school, and they can keep a whole gallery of saved animations. So going to the website here, I have a little gallery here. I'm signed in with my Google account. If you click create, you can see there's a whole bunch of tools that they can use on the side here. You can add new frames. So every frame that you put some sort of line or shape in will start to create the moving animation here. You can change the speed of the animation. There's a ton of tools where you can change different colors. You can add shapes. So it's pretty user-friendly, pretty kid-friendly. So the goal of the project will be for the students to create a 10-frame animation or more. The video will be based on a short story that they write with their planning worksheets. They will be watching a series of YouTube tutorial videos to help them practice using these tools. And they will also engage in some peer critique and feedback for each other. You can see a couple examples here of a few short little animations. So for the learners, this is a fourth grade group. I teach art, so I have many sections of fourth grade. I broke these categories up to none, some, and a lot. So basically none would be none of my fourth graders up until this point have any experience creating animations in art. They know somewhat what animation is, but no experience creating it with me. Using Google Classroom in art, they also do not have experience doing that. That's something that I would like to dive more into. Some experience using technology in art, we use it a little bit here and there. Using the program PiscalApp, they do have a tiny bit of experience from third grade using this program. However, they don't have any experience using it to create animations. They've only used it to make one single slide. Editing their art after they've been given feedback either by me or their classmates. They have some experience doing this. And then as far as IEP or ELL students, there are some in every section of fourth grade. Some have more than others, but there's definitely a good number of ELL students in our schools. So a lot of experience using YouTube in art class. We use that quite a bit for videos for them to follow along with, so they're pretty proficient using YouTube, using iPads. Writing about their art is something that they are required to do after every project, so they do have a lot of experience doing that. Planning their art as well. These are two parts of a unit that we always engage in for every project. And then using Chromebooks, they're pretty proficient with that. So the objectives, I have 4 main objectives for this unit, and I basically broke them down into planning, creating, reflecting, and analyzing or editing. So the students will be able to write and draw a unique story plan for their animation using 10 frames. So that's the planning part. Students will be able to construct and design their plan using the program PiscalApp with accuracy to their 10-frame planning. So that's the whole main creation part. Students will be able to create a 1-paragraph artist statement using art vocabulary that we've learned about to describe personal choices in their art making. So that's the reflection piece, and that will come at the end. Students will be able to give verbal artistic feedback to at least 3 classmates, and they will be able to revise their own work based on the feedback of their classmates. So this is sort of analyzing art, interpreting it, and then editing based on feedback. So the learning strategies here, the main one is modeling using technology, and this is the 5-step theory where students start with a plan, then they access, transform, and translate information into the knowledge. They evaluate the knowledge base, they revise the knowledge base, and they reflect on the activity. So this really fits very well with my art units. We do these 5 steps pretty much every unit. So there's always a time before they start the project that they have to plan their art so they know what they're focusing on. And then step 2 would be the main creation part, using the art tools. then evaluating what they're doing. They have to reflect on their work based on feedback that's been given to them, and then they revise based on that evaluation. And then they always write a statement at the end, so they're reflecting on their activity. I've also used some flipped classroom approaches. So I think using Google Classroom as a sort of flipped classroom method will help the students access materials at their own pace. It allows for some differentiation and definitely saves time. So you don't have to have every student on the same step of the project at the same time. So the technologies used, the main one is the Pixelab.com program. They will be using that on the Chromebooks. They will be using Google Classroom quite a bit to access materials, and then they'll be using YouTube to access videos. So from day to day, day one will be the introduction to what is animation and sort of like a classroom discussion about that to see where they're at, what their knowledge base is, and then my introduction to the program of Piscalab and what animation is based on what we'll use it for. Then they will fill out a planning document, and this is basically writing slash drawing, and they'll submit this to Google Classroom when they finish. Day two, they'll read their feedback from me, and then they'll edit based on that feedback. And then they'll practice using the program Piscalab. So there's a video that I've recorded that they will watch, a YouTube tutorial video. And there's also a few other videos if they need more practice or they would like more practice on the Google Classroom website. Day three, they'll start their final animation project once they feel that they're ready and they're done practicing and they have finished revising their plan. Day four, they'll continue designing and creating. Then day five is when we'll get into some peer feedback and revision of work. So that's where they'll start to show their classmates their work, and then they'll give feedback to each other. Day six is revising and finishing their work, and once they finish, they'll turn in their work to Google Classroom. Day seven is their reflection writing, so their artist statement. And then we'll have a fun viewing party where everyone gets to show their animation, and we have sort of a class discussion that really centers around analyzing the art. So differentiation, I have two main sources that I would like to use for this unit. So the scanning reading system called Kurzweil is for students who struggle with reading. So it's a program that will read the information for them out loud. And they can use their headphones connected to the Chromebook for this. So this would be good for students who are struggling reading the rubric, the directions, the articles posted, stuff like that. Then the Dragon Dictation program would be for students who struggle with writing. So when they're writing their planning documents, their feedback documents to their peers, and their artist statements. This would help students record audibly what they would like to write, and then it will type for them, and they can submit that to Google Classroom. The main handouts that I'll be using are the planning and sketching document, the feedback and editing document, and the reflecting document. So this is what the students will start with. They'll start by planning out what they want their animation to be about. So what are the characters? What's the story? What's happening? How are you going to show movement? And then down here they can sketch the 10 frames or more and just show a little tiny drawing of how each frame will progress. Feedback and editing, this is when they do the peer feedback, the critique. So we call this a critique sheet. It's just three main categories of questions or feedback that they want to give to the student that they're viewing the animation of. So they can write on this and they can give this to the student, or this could be something that we could fill out electronically and submit to Google Classroom and share with each other. The reflection document is their artist statement. So this is where they write about their art in the end. They use this after every project as well. So here's some student examples. You can see some are a little bit longer than others. This one is obviously above 10 frames. This one is above 10 frames as well. So these are a little bit more complex stories. but I like this program because it allows for a lot of differentiation. If a student had an IEP that would state that they should be creating work below the expectations, and they could create less than 10 frames, or they could create more than 10 frames, and that could be an exceeds on a rubric. The online content is on Google Classroom, and I basically have the schedule outlined so the students can follow along with what they should be doing first, second, and third, so they can really keep themselves on track. They have their objectives here so they know exactly what is expected of them. I also have an electronic Google Doc version of the handouts, so the planning document, the critique sheets, the reflection sheet, and then I have a final project example here that they can see. This is just a GIF file, basically. I have a couple articles here about animation. I have the Piskel website in case they forget how to spell that. And then I have some tutorial videos here. So these are all YouTube videos. This one I created, and they have to follow along with this one first and create a practice animation and check that with me. Then the rest of these are just other helpful YouTube tutorial videos about Piskel animation specifically that gives them some tips that I did not give them in the first video. So just ways to go above and beyond. This is a guide to critiquing, just in case they need more guidance on how to give feedback. Here's an article that is, I'm sorry, not an article. This is a Google Docs sheet that I posted about the Piskel tools and what each of them does, just sort of like an answer key. And then this is just a little Google Docs document that I made about how to finish and share your work, so how to upload it and turn it in. So this unit really is an example of augmentation. So in traditional animation practices, the students would be spending more time on their animations because they would have to draw every single slide. They would also be using more art supplies, so they would be hand drawing their animations, and that would be more expensive and take more time with those supplies to draw that out. It's also a bit more challenging for elementary artists to engage in an actual full animation in a traditional sense, and it's not as easy to edit. If you're going to draw each slide, then you kind of are limited in the editing and deleting capabilities that you have. So the Piskel program is definitely quicker. There's no waste of any supplies. There's easy editing capabilities, so you can undo every single mark that you make. You can completely delete a frame and then start over. So that's always good for students to feel more comfortable with a program when there really is no chance that they can mess up the art. It's also really kid-friendly and easy to use, so good for those novice artists. And it's super simple to just download their animation as a GIF file versus traditional animation practices that would be a bit more complicated. So the evaluation of the unit, they will have their main rubric, which will be posted on the Google Classroom site, and this will assess their planning, their editing, their artist statement, and their final animation based on the objectives. Each day will also have exit tickets after the lesson. So there's 7 main days, so 7 exit tickets. Questions like, what is one thing you learned today about animation? So that's starting the unit. Kind of in the middle here, has your animation changed at all from your original design? If yes, how do you think it has changed? So this is kind of in the revision section. And then at the end, what do you think about your animation now that it's complete? So just sort of like a reflection type question at the end there. So different questions based on what they learned that day. I also would like to give them just an end of the unit survey so they can reflect on just mainly why we used Piskel App. So do you feel you were successful in creating your design plan using Piskel App? Do you think Piskel App allowed you to create your design in ways that other art materials wouldn't be able to? Thinking about creation or display purposes, why do you think an artist would use Piskel App or a similar program to create their work? So just getting them to think a little bit deeper about why we use